Have you missed it? Like, do you guys think, I should have got in on Bitcoin?
I don't spend a lot
5 years ago.
Bitcoin.
And Bitcoin is something that certainly a lot of people think, is going to rise as an alternative currency.
The Australian Bitcoin Podcast, presented by GuardBlock.
It's not a currency, it's not money. I don't understand it.
Hey, welcome to the Australian Bitcoin Podcast, episode 100, which is quite the milestone, even if I do say so myself. I haven't been around the whole time. I got here around episode 86, and of course, my esteemed co-host, Mike, is back on board.
Howdy.
We're going to need to be on our best behavior today because we're also joined by the man that started it all, both the podcast and the company, GuardBlock founder and CEO, Mr. Daniel Wilkinski. I hope I pronounced that right.
Close enough.
And our product manager, Alex. How you going, boys?
Hey. Glad to be back on.
Good.
Good to be on with you guys. Everybody here all together. Well, almost everybody. We've got our developer also missing.
Yeah, Nick couldn't make it, unfortunately. But this is Gentlemen. Welcome to episode 100 of the Australian Bitcoin Podcast. We're recording this on the 20th of November. Block height, 924,370. The price, we're going to talk about it. It's pretty tragic. We're about 27% down from the all-time high. Currently sitting at around 92,420 USD denominated cuck bucks, or 142,564 denominated dollary dues. Okay. Well, why don't we just get the price talk out of the way straight off the bat, gentlemen? What is happening?
Christmas special.
Yeah, it's a discount.
It's on sale.
Santa.
Set up your DCA and you won't have to worry about it. But if you're looking to smash buy, now is an outstanding time. Yes.
Absolutely. If you want to get some Bitcoin gifts, get some Sats cards or some open dimes and shill them out for Christmas, it's a good time.
So we're about 27%. I think I read I wrote. Yeah, down 27% from the all-time high. All the treasury companies are struggling. We'll get to those in a minute. There's a little bit to talk about. We've got a little bit of news to wade through. We obviously want to give a bit of a shout out and a retrospect. We don't want to be too indulgent of the 100th episode and 100 episodes of the Australian Bitcoin Podcast. It's probably the premier Australian Bitcoin podcast in the space, and we've got a few other little announcements coming up in the back end of the show. We're going to talk about a new product and service that we're launching, and Daniel and Alex are going to take us through that. We've got some collaborative news with a particular sporting team over in WA, and of course, this time next week, the vast majority of us will be heading west or east, depending on where you're at, into roughly almost the centre, I suppose, of New South Wales, to go to the Parks Bush Bash. So we'll unpack all of that as well. Talk to me about the price, Mike. What's happening? Why are we not? Why am I not super rich right now?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people out there are quite disappointed. Every punter, every analyst out there was talking about 150K US Bitcoin by the end of the year, which, and a lot of them are still holding on to hope that could still happen. God Candle comes in and saves the day at the last minute. It's unclear what will happen, but clearly a lot of people are very disappointed. And in the run up to, we've just come off this all-time high not too long ago. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have been buying around that time who are now wondering, what have they done with their lives, that everything's all doom and gloom and that sort of thing. And, a lot of veteran Bitcoiners will say, it's your first time. Plenty of people have been in for long enough and they've seen drawdowns like this happen before. It's part of the cycle, even though a lot of people are saying that we may be moving away from that classic cycle. But yeah, a lot of people are in pain. All the ETFs are in pain. We're seeing some of the largest outflows from the ETFs since they started, the Bitcoin ETFs, that is. And then all these treasury reserve companies, your Michael Saylor's Strategy, your Nakamoto, your what's the Japanese one called, Metaplanet, they're all bleeding, they're all hurting, everyone's hurting. It's fear out there. Fear is reigning. I think we've had the longest run of the fear and greed index, sitting in that fear quadrant for the longest time, for a very long time. So a lot of doom and gloom all around. It's unclear exactly why. Obviously, gold's just had its massive run up, and it's still kind of like, gold ran up and then it's come down and it's coming up again. Whereas during that time, Bitcoin's kind of shit the bed a little bit. I guess it's just part of just this massive contagion through all markets. Everyone's scared. Everyone's running to that flight of safety in gold. People are chasing the hottest new thing in AI. A lot of Bitcoiners will say, oh, people should be buying Bitcoin, but instead they're investing in all these crazy AI companies and speculations and possibly forming a bit of an AI bubble. Instead of stacking Bitcoin. And it's just created a lot of chaos, a lot of fear, and we're seeing it play out in the price.
The thing that disappoints me the most is that at Christmas time, I've had one Christmas where I can be a little bit boastful and gloat to uncles that are of the
You have to plan a few Christmases ahead.
I'm wondering, Daniel, how many Christmases have you had where you can? You've been around the traps, you've been around the block for a while. Obviously, GuardBlock, longest running Australian Bitcoin only exchange. But so you've been in the game for long enough. How many Christmases have you been able to gloat at? And were you looking forward to doing the same in 2025? I mean, what's happening?
To be honest, I don't like to gloat too much.
Sure.
But I think this will be like my 12th Christmas, I believe. But yeah, I mean, I don't like to gloat too much about it.
He's humble. He's a very humble man.
I appreciate that.
Once you're in it for long enough, you almost can start to gloat every year. In like a single cycle, if you bought in, at this run up and then you've taken this massive hit, obviously you're going to be keeping your head down and whatever. But after you've been through a few cycles and it's still maintaining its sort of large amount that it is at, we've said 1,000 times before, but if you just zoom out, you get that perspective. As long as you're in it long enough, you can still be that gloating wanker if you really want to. You just got to stick it out.
Just don't look at the...
The only thing I really do in terms of gloating is sometimes when I've mentioned to some friends that they should be buying Bitcoin instead of crypto, and a lot of them, a lot of people don't follow my advice. But sometimes I ask them, so, how's that, whatever, like shitcoin from 4 years ago is going. It's like, so, and I just kind of rub it in that, well, maybe, Bitcoin's doing pretty well. Maybe you should have listened to my advice. So that's the only thing I rub it in, when they didn't listen to my advice and bought shitcoins instead of Bitcoin.
Well, I thought it was certainly interesting. Earlier this week, we had a little industry meeting with the Macquarie Bank, who have recently blocked all deposits to crypto and Bitcoin exchanges. And I thought it was interesting that when we entered the meeting, I don't know if this is before we turned on the mics, because some people were attending remotely. So I don't know if you heard this, Dan or Mike, but they were styling on us a little bit because of the price drop in Bitcoin. And I was just grinning and laughing. And then at the end of the meeting, not that we'd had any ability to convince them or anything. I think they were pretty closed off to rescinding the block or anything for now. But on a personal level, they were interested in buying Bitcoin. And in fact, they commented that on a personal level, it's actually quite inconvenient because they bank with Macquarie. So they've cut themselves off from buying Bitcoin, which I thought was pretty funny. So they can't even buy the dip. So I think the last laugh will be on them.
There was an interesting little moment in that meeting where I think some of them were starting to use some of the lingo, some of the terms that Bitcoiners like to use, and I think you kind of pointed that out. I don't think they noticed it, but
that's also been something that's stood out to me a lot. Is at the exchange occasionally we get requests for information from law enforcement, which if there's a warrant we do have to comply with. That's if they're trying to track down money laundering or some other financial crime. or funds associated with another crime. And something that stood out to me, like maybe I can't remember what it was, maybe like 18 months ago, was that they started using the term fiat currency. And as far as I'm concerned, when your enemy, I mean, maybe not enemy, but when your opponent starts using your frame, like when they adopt your framing, you've already won. It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
I agree with
Love
that.
it.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like they were actually pretty like pro Bitcoin. Like
yeah, I'd say that.
They
Yeah,
were
yeah.
Actually, like they went against Bitcoin.
But
Basically,
they're still representing this like very conservative big Australian institution that is just from a collective they still have to be very like hands off, keep distance for now, and slowly creep towards it.
Yeah.
But individually, as you said, Dan, they're a lot more open.
Yeah, this just sounds like Upton Sinclair syndrome. I don't understand how you can square that circle. I mean, like obviously, probably if you have like a giant mortgage and you need the cash flow from your cushy Macquarie job, you probably can compartmentalize and what's the word? Cognitive dissonance. You can go to work each day and not abide Bitcoin, but personally, you're kind of curious. You're a little bit.
Well, I think it's they do have genuine scam concerns, and I guess it's just not enough of a big enough market and priority for them that they care about it enough. So it's easy for them to just blanket ban it. Until it becomes a bigger issue for them, they're probably just not going to spend the time to figure out how to have more fine-grained risk control. But yeah, I was going to say on the price action, I think obviously the fundamental reason is really that there's a lot of weakness in the US economy at the moment, especially with around the AI stocks. So I think maybe Mike had something for us on that, but it's like this real question of, is there an AI bubble? It was actually Nvidia had their earnings last night, and they've very, very starkly stated they think there is not a bubble because they've got genuine demand. So I'm not sure where I fall on that actually, because I think I kind of lean towards there not being a bubble yet. I think there probably will be a bubble, but I think it's still got a long way to go in my opinion. But we'll see.
Yeah, so in the run up to that earnings call you talked about, there was all this speculation that if that earnings call went badly, had a bad result, could that be the beginning of the end of this sort of like AI stampede that's happening? But no, the call was a resounding success. They're doing very well, thank you. It's definitely not a bubble. Don't worry about it. But some of the numbers that are getting thrown around are insane, and you can jump on Twitter and you can find some graphs that people have done showing like the sloshing of money moving around in this big whirlpool circle between OpenAI, Nvidia, Oracle, and all these other big tech American companies, and they're just sloshing funds around in this big sort of circle washing machine sort of thing. And it just looks ridiculous when you look at it, and you're like, how is this? And this is basically the engine for our global economy at the moment. Like it's kind of silly, and the numbers are insane when you start to contextualize them against other things. Like the one that sticks out at me is comparing Nvidia's overall market valuation to some other things. So particularly the ASX. So Nvidia, their market value right now is $4.6 trillion US. The entire ASX, Australian Stock Exchange, is $2 trillion, and Australia's net GDP per year is $1.8 trillion. So a single company that 20 years ago was just making graphics cards that go in your computer so you can play Call of Duty or whatever is now worth more than the entire ASX plus our GDP output. A single company that used to make computer graphics cards. Well, that alone is like that. That's a bubble to me. Like as a complete economics Luddite, that to me just doesn't sound right. Am I crazy?
No, but so what's the first what's the number one thing you need in order to run an NVIDIA graphics card, server farm, AI data center, whatever? What's the number one thing that you need in order to make that go?
Electricity,
energy.
Mm-hmm.
What's our number one export?
Is it energy?
Is it energy? I mean, it could
I
be
don't
iron
know.
ore.
I think it's iron. I think it's
for
iron.
Australia, it could be if we wanted it to be.
It could be energy.
Precisely.
Yeah.
This is
Could
my
definitely
point.
be.
Quite a lot of coal,
Natural
right?
gas, coal,
Coal,
and yet
yeah.
here we are, and they've got like what, a 1x on us, something like that. Holy smokes, man! Like,
Well, I got another seemingly like astounding fact for you on the AIS stocks, which is Iron, who is Australia's like the biggest Bitcoin miner. I mean, they do all their Bitcoin mining in Canada and the US, but they are here in Sydney, and they're the second biggest Bitcoin miner by like public company like mining volume. But they're pivoting into AI, and they have recently just become bigger by market cap, or roughly the same by market cap as Qantas, which is like the national carrier, like for airlines in Australia, essentially.
are they? Is Iron listed on the ASX?
No, they're listed in America on the Nasdaq.
Amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're winning.
So-
Actually, they got removed from the the ASX wouldn't let them be listed. There was an article in the AFR just the other week highlighting that. Yeah.
It's like that Lock. What was that? What was that company we were talking about before? Lock something that had the Bitcoin treasury.
Locate Technologies. Yeah. So the story with them was they wanted to run the Bitcoin treasury play and be like the Australian Bitcoin treasury company. And they have actually, I believe, they have at this point delisted from the ASX, and they've moved overseas. I think to New Zealand they were planning to, because the ASX essentially didn't want Bitcoin treasury activity on the ASX that opposed to Bitcoin. Which, I mean, given the recent price action on treasury companies, I mean,
Yeah.
But in principle, they should be allowed to do that.
Well, while we're talking about economic foot guns and just how well we are doing as a nation with respect to embracing innovation and getting a fair price for all of our energy exports, the real driver really in Australia is, of course, real estate. Everybody knows that. So, Mike, you had a bit of news about the Australian real estate, the state of it, and how it's looking more and more like a bubble every day.
Yeah, so there's this great article posted by Leif Van Olensen on Macrobusiness, macrobusiness.com.au. Fantastic site, by the way, if you want some a bit of counter takes on some of the financial news you get in the mainstream. They put out some really good content there. And he put out an article basically showing how Australia's GDP to our property valuation is now at a similar ratio as Japan was just prior to its massive economic collapse in the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
We're at the 450% GDP to real estate valuation. And, you can look at some graphs and it's nuts. You see Japan's run up and a massive spike and then their collapse. And then Australia's now done a massive run up. We're at that spike now. And we're at that same ratio where Japan had its absolutely crippling collapse and it still hasn't recovered from that collapse. And we're now at the same sort of scale in terms of our property valuations versus the actual productive output of the country. So it's not looking good. The difference that some people like commenters have said is that, yes, it's a bubble, but ours is a managed bubble. Our whole economy and everything is built around this real estate Ponzi scheme. And it is, it totally is. I guess the difference with Japan was just they had so much money they just didn't know what to do with. So they were speculating on crazy real estate and infrastructure projects and stuff. Whereas Australia, our whole economy seems to be managed and planned around this real estate Ponzi, and you see all the politicians are lining up to make sure that everyone's property bags are pumped, no matter which side you're dealing with.
Talking of pumping it, we just had the rollout of the 5% deposit scheme. So I know that I'm in my early 30s, and all of my friends and family that I've yet to convince to get on the Bitcoin train, which is pretty much most of them. I guess maybe not family, but mostly friends who are in that position where they would have otherwise, they're saving up for a deposit. With this 5% deposit scheme, they're now all going balls to the wall, inspecting properties, they're about to commit because suddenly it's become viable for them. So I think there's got some pump to go. Hopefully they don't get wiped out. It'd be devastating. And then the other one is we've got the 50-year mortgages on the rise, and that's being discussed in the US at the moment. Trump raised the I don't know, the idea of 50-year mortgages, and I could see that being something rolled out in Australia too.
So I've heard about this.
The idea is you be a serf for life. Like just is that the idea? Like
we're in real debt slavery territory now.
If you get a 50, so by the time the mortgage is paid off, you're 75.
And then the other part of it as well that I heard some analysis on is 50-year term mortgage. They were talking about potentially also the idea that you could inherit the debt. So you could pass it on to a family member. They could inherit your loan.
Yeah. Nice.
And then the other part as well is if you look at how... That's right, yeah. If you look at how the interest is...
These are all good ideas.
If you look at how the interest gets gets marked out on, like when you do these, these... God, what's the word? When it's like the interest monthly. Compound interest loan. Actually, the interest payments actually get front-loaded. It's like... when you're making your first payments, you're mostly paying off interest. So only towards the back end of the loan, actually, that you're actually paying off the principal. And so when you have these 50-year mortgages, actually, the majority of your working life, you're actually just paying interest only, or like majority interest. And so it's quite a large question. It's like, okay, people come into retirement, and yet they've still got the majority of the principal to pay down, or a large component of it.
It's
kind of scary.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Bitcoiners are familiar with this, but it truly is the most insidious scam, really. Like, and the argument against it is, you get a house out of it, you get a place to live, where else are you going to live in the meantime? But the fact is, these mortgages, these loans are issued by banks who are able to create money through the blessing of the government, and they're receiving interest out of it. It's just straight up usury, which, not to get too... spiritual, I guess, but most religions are all about saying usury is a bad thing. Yet here we are forcing everyone into this usury system in order just to have a house over your head, a roof over your head. It's
but that's because we're all communists now, and that's we don't believe in God. We don't believe in any of that sort of stuff. We just believe in the state, and the state will take care of us. And heck, it's taken care of. The generation that's preceded us quite handsomely. It reminds me of Dale's book. We had Dale Warburton on a couple of episodes ago. He released that book, No Tenants, No Troubles, The Case for Digital Gold Over Real Estate. I mean, more people really ought to read that book, or at least look at the value prop of Bitcoin versus real estate. Because you mentioned before, Alex, that you've got some friends who are balls to the wall looking for properties, obviously to live in. But on the same flip side of that, you've got investors which are like, well, I don't know, we better get in and start buying more investment properties. They might not be able to take advantage of that 5% deposit. Pretty sure they can't. But nonetheless, they know that a pump's coming. And so, again, it's just all about, pumping up, jacking up house prices and letting that dream get further and further away,
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And without pivoting too hard into an upcoming news item, if you do want to learn about what it's like to live under communism, like maybe we're trending in that direction. Actually, at the Bush Bash, we've got someone who I think is going to give a very compelling presentation on what it was like to live under communism in East Germany. She spoke up at Cairns earlier in the year, just for very briefly on one of the soapbox sessions. She got up and spoke for about 5-10 minutes. And this time she's putting together like a full presentation. So I think it's going to be very powerful and moving, I expect. So I'm actually, quite looking forward to that one.
Yeah, not great, Bob. Not great is the TLDR on that. You're looking for a hassle-free way to buy Bitcoin in Australia? GuardBlock makes it easy. As Australia's longest-running Bitcoin-only exchange, their mission is to help Australians simply and easily buy Bitcoin and take it into self-custody. There are no deposit or trading fees, just a clear 2.4% spread. That covers operating costs, so you always know exactly what you're paying. Withdrawals are just $1.18 or as low as 400 sats with AutoSend. There are no hidden charges, no surprises, just a fast, reliable, and easy way to stack sats with total transparency. Get started today at hardblock.com.au. Bitcoin made easy for Aussies. Well, why don't we pivot to the Bush Bash, because it seems as good a time as any to bring it up. We've got the New South Wales Bush Bash coming up, which is the first. It was the original. They used to host it in Murrurundi. I can remember, I think it was in 2020, I was scrolling Bitcoin Twitter and I would see, I think I was coming across William of Rotherham, maybe Wiz, and they were kind of pushing it because they were the organizers, the instantiators of the whole thing. And I remember thinking at the time, I'm not going to drive all the way to Murrurundi just to meet up with Bitcoiners. It's a $5 wrench attack just waiting to happen. This is not a good idea. So I remember just dismissing the whole thing. And then, of course, after the fact, on Twitter, you've got footage of, I'm pretty sure it was JP and Catan setting up a Blockstream satellite and all of this cool shit. And I was just like, So anyway, if you are thinking about going to the next Bush Bash, don't do what I did and just dismiss it as like a $5 wrench attack waiting to happen. It's full of awesome people. And anyway, tell me about it, Alex. You're the one organizing it.
Yeah, so the Bitcoin Bush Bash is basically, you can think of it as a bit like an unconference. So Bitcoiners from all over Australia descend on a rural town. You can camp if you want. Most people will just book their own accommodation in the local town. This New South Wales one that we're having is in about a week. It's on the 28th to the 30th of November. So that's the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On the Friday afternoon is BitDevs from 2 to 5 p.m. So come along to that if you're more technically minded. Otherwise, show up on the Friday evening and there'll be people in local pubs. And then presentations go Saturday and Sunday. So we've got a variety of presentations. We've got some on Bitcoin UX, what it's been like to accept Bitcoin at businesses from our friend Jesse up on the Central Coast. Got Bitcoin lending, inheritance planning, some culture and psychology. Our very own Daniel is presenting. He's going to be talking about Liana Wallet and time locks, and probably also maybe a mention of our product, which we'll get to later. And then there's a bunch of great presentations. So no tickets required, no RSVPs. Just show up, book your own accommodation. It's at Cook Park Pavilion, which is like the community centre in one of the main parks in the town of Parkes, New South Wales.
Can I just ask, like, it's I've been to a couple and I've had an awesome time each time. The presentations are always fantastic, but it's also the chats outside of the presentation, I guess the official, even though it's an unofficial unconference, but the official kind of content that's being presented. It's those chats of meeting other Bitcoiners in real life. There's nothing quite like it. It's almost like, it sounds cheesy, but it's almost like meeting people that you've known for a very long time. You don't really have to do the small talk. You can just get down to business and start chatting about whatever it is that you're passionate about. And those chats outside of those talks and conferences, like at the pub before and after, are really, really awesome.
Yeah, you meet people that, obviously with Bitcoin, you can speak your mind. With Bitcoiners, you can basically just speak your mind. It's not like this kind of modern, weird paradigm that we've got now in Australia and other Western countries where people just hate you for having a certain political opinion or just a certain opinion on something. People just hate you for it. Bitcoiners tend to be more open-minded, or maybe not open-minded is not quite the right word, but at least you can say what you want and you can be truthful and you can have conversations and you can really get into the weeds, and you definitely bit of that find your tribe sort of thing, and you can definitely have some fantastic conspiratorial chats. That's obviously my jam. So we want to talk about government overthrow. We'll talk about all that stuff.
Just don't mention Tool.
How's your presentation prep coming along, Dan?
Very good. Yeah, it's going well. And apart from what Mike mentioned, you can also learn about Bitcoin because there will be some very knowledgeable people, knowledgeable in terms of Bitcoin at the event. So it's a good place to learn about Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's at Parkes. It starts next week, which is on the 27th. Is that right?
No, 28th to 30th of November. So 29th and 30th is the Saturday and Sunday. But feel free to come in the afternoon on the 28th if you're more technically minded and want to participate or listen in on BitDevs.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. Let's pivot. Let's move to our. We want to reveal a little bit. So you're going to do a talk at the Bush Bash, Daniel, about time locks and a few other things. We want to leak a little bit of alpha today on the episode 100, with respect to a new product that the team's been working on for a good long while now, and we're kind of almost ready to release it restrictively into the wild to get the feedback, thoughts, and opinions of other Bitcoiners. So I'll let you and Alex take it from here.
Okay, well, maybe I'll start. So yeah, I think it's a very good product. It's about, to summarize it, it's collaborative Bitcoin custody utilizing time locks. So, okay, people might be like, what does that mean? Well, I think it helps with custody, and it solves a lot of risks, or mitigates the risks. It mitigates the risk of hacking, of getting hacked. It mitigates the risk of a $2 wrench attack. But you can hold your Bitcoin in a self-custodial way. But there's also a way where if you lose your wallet, your hardware device, your keys, you can still recover your Bitcoins. And if you pass away, you can set up an inheritance where your Bitcoins will pass to whoever you want to inherit them. So, I mean, it almost sounds like when I'm saying that, well, that can be true. Like, how can you do all that? Like, but it kind of does all that. Like, it really does. I think it's a really good solution. I mean, I don't want to get too much into the technical details of how it works, but it really solves it's not a perfect solution, but it really helps solve all these problems.
It balances the trade-offs really nicely,
Yes,
like with respect to
yes.
that trilemma.
Yes.
It brings a really nice balance. So if I just give some real-world example, and I'm probably revealing that I'm definitely down on that left-hand side of the bell curve here, but I remember a couple of months ago, I was digging some stuff out of some boxes, and I found a cold card, and I was like, what the heck is this? I don't, like, I've never seen this before in my life. And then I had this brain fart, like, maybe there's some Bitcoin on it. That'd be cool. Because my other setup, which is the main setup, and I don't own any Bitcoin, like it's all at the bottom of the lake now, unfortunately. But I know exactly where it is, right at the bottom of a local watercourse. But I found this cold card, and I was like, oh, that's weird. So I spun it up, and I started to check the seed words that can display in the cold card, and I wrote them down, and I was like, okay, well, I'll put them into a hot wallet and just check if maybe there's some Bitcoin on there that I've forgotten about, and maybe I could finally get some semblance of a stack back, having lost it all in the boating accident. So I put it into a hot wallet, and lo and behold, there's the stack, and I was like, oh shit. And so then I panicked, called some friends, and managed to resolve the issue. But I was most worried about having put those seed words into a hot wallet, whether or not the developer, the app developer, was able to access them. Now, I'm pretty certain, 99%, that they're not. But I didn't know for sure. And I was like, you never put your seed words in a hot wallet. Like, that's just 101, like total retard over here. But if I had GuardBlock at that time, and there was that mitigation that you were talking about, would it have been as much of a stressful afternoon/evening?
Well, I think not. So the way so GuardBlock is the name. We should say that, GuardBlock. Dan's very happy. He's very proud of his domain, guardblock.com. So we should say that. Playing off the Hardblock name.
DJ, it was your idea, like the name, so you came up with a name. But I do like it. I think it's a good name, and it's certainly grown on me since that time.
But yeah, so the way to think about it is it's basically helping you to set up a time-locked multi-sig. And so the benefits you get from multi-sig, you get enhanced security because you can geographically distribute your keys. And then you also get enhanced redundancy because you can have it so that you have a threshold of keys, like 2 of 3 or 3 of 5, such that if you lose a key, it's not the end of the world. So they're the other big benefits of multi-sig. And then by time locking the multi-sig, we're actually able to stagger, without getting too much into it, stagger the pathways that are available to spend. And so we can have a system where you're able to spend along with the GuardBlock system, and that allows for very, very good security controls. But after a time lock, you're able to spend by yourself. And then after an even longer time lock, you're able to custodial recovery through GuardBlock. So by doing that, you get like very, very high levels of redundancy. So if you had lost that cold card, it would have, and you'd been with GuardBlock, it would have been a matter of just waiting it out and contacting GuardBlock for the custodial recovery. So it's like a real, like idiot-proof solution in that sense. And then in the same sense, if you had been with GuardBlock and someone had found that cold card, well, they wouldn't have been able to do anything about it because of the spending controls that are applied by GuardBlock, which basically restrict how much can be withdrawn from the vault in any one spend. And so as part of your setup with GuardBlock, you'd be doing key health checks, and you would realize before the time locks expire that, oh shit, my cold card's missing. And so, yeah, I think it really would have protected you in either scenario, whether you lost the cold card and never found that box again, or whether someone else had found that box and tried to compromise its setup.
And can I say another benefit is, because somebody listening to this, oh, it sounds great, but I probably need to be like an engineer, whatever, to set it up. It must be so complicated. And it's actually not. It's not really any harder than setting up a hardware wallet. It's actually a pretty simple product to use.
Well, and then the other part of it is the collaborative part, which is the plan is for us to offer a service to help you set this up as well. So while I think it's already quite simple, and someone who's got experience with doing their own, like doing a DIY multi-sig, they'll be able to get by doing it by themselves. Someone who's never done a multi-sig before, or someone who's more on the beginner end, will be there to guide you through it. And I think that's another compelling part of it.
This is a fact check true, because we've been doing internal testing, and I've been playing around with Bitbox 02 and played around with some of the interface the last couple of weeks, and it is surprisingly straightforward and simple to actually get it all established, and even just to transact as well. Obviously, we've been transacting backwards and forwards on test wallets and stuff, and as I said, and as that story that I said illustrates, like I'm definitely down on the left-hand side of that bell curve in retard land. And honestly, I was surprised at just how straightforward it is to set up, and it's nice and clean. We've got the website up, guardblock.com, which you can go to, and it'll give you a little bit of insight and information about what that product and what that service is. You can join the waitlist as well. There's a couple of areas that you can put your email into, and we'll put you on the notice list, and we'll let you know with information and updates as they come along. But if you are going to be at Parks next week, most of us, I'm pretty sure, will all be there, and you can certainly bend certainly Daniel and Alex's ear with respect to unpacking it and understanding a little bit more from a technical level, if that's your jam.
Overall, really, really keen on using it and seeing it in action, because it definitely solves a lot of these like really big mental blocks that I think a lot of people have, maybe some listeners still have, or at least maybe some of their friends and family have, which is, when you're taking self-custody of Bitcoin, you're coming from this world of having all these safety nets of banks and all these institutions that can always bail you out. If everything all goes tits up, you can get a bailout. And then there's that mental hurdle with, okay, I'm on self-custody now with my Bitcoin. It stops with me. It stops with my hardware wallet and my private key. If I lose that, I'm done. Whereas with products like GuardBlock, suddenly you do have a life raft. Yes, it is restricted by time, passage of time, but you do have a bailout in case, worst case scenario happens, you can still get access to your funds. So I think it does help a lot of people get over that mental hurdle of self-custody.
Can I just ask a question, Daniel? What made you think of this? Like, what was the initiation of the development of this product?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, it is a problem I see over time a lot of the problems that we solve, right? One is I try to, I try to get family or friends to help them invest in Bitcoin. And to be honest, like some of them, even like a hardware wallet, like I can help them set that up, but I'm not sure if I fully trust them to do it properly, like as in I can set it up, but the thing is, like when we invest in Bitcoin, like right now the price is down. I don't really care. Like we're doing it for the long term, 10, 20, 30 years. People invest with GuardBlock with a self-managed super fund. They're investing it for like 20 years. And if you set up a hardware wallet, somebody who's not into the Bitcoin like us, okay, they can have a backup price, but if they're holding it for 5 years, for 10 years, if I set it up, like they could lose it, like I set it up, they'll remember it for the first year, but they could mess things up. It's kind of like a real risk. But how do they hold it? They hold it. The other alternative is to hold it on a custodial service, and that was like people always like previously with the discussions, oh, you hold it in a custodial service so you have a backup in case you lose your keys. So that's why you need to do it. And some people like made that point, but it's like you can have both with Bitcoin. It is actually it is programmable money. Like it is programmable money. It has a lot of key things that you can do, and you can solve these problems. So I'm kind of going, I feel like I'm going on a bit of a rant, but now, but so I see the problems, like helping set up people. Like I don't want them holding on an exchange, because even holding it for 10, 20 years, that's not safe. Like there's many risks with that. They can't hold on an exchange for 10, 20 years. The exchange could go down, anything, whatever. But I feel not fully comfortable with them holding it on a hardware wallet. They could lose their seed phrase or whatever. So having that kind of backup is important. And this allows them to have it in a custodial way where they control it and nobody can steal it from them. But if they make a mistake, it does kind of, if they lose their wallet, basically they can recover it.
They've got a way out.
Yeah. Like, and it seems magical, but you can do it because Bitcoin is magical money. It's,
join us.
Yeah, join us. And the other problem it does also is with inheritance. And, like a lot of Bitcoiners myself, in the last few years, I've had children, and other people see that, and, and like setting up inheritance, like, what's a good way to do that? I've been always thinking of what's a good way to set up, like, solve that problem. And there's some solutions coming along now, like Bitcoin Advisor, are a great service, and they help with that. But I was always like thinking, like, how can, like, like what's a way to do like the inheritance? And I'm still thinking about it, like what are ways to solve that problem. But I think we've got a pretty good solution for that. Like we've had GuardBlock. So, yeah.
If I just frame it quickly in the context of Square's recent launch to making it super easy and frictionless, effectively, for all merchants in the US at the moment to accept Bitcoin in their small business, in their medium-sized business, whatever it is. The notion is that, okay, cool, I can now transact with this Bitcoin. And if we've got someone like a Jesse over at Rise Mofo, who we collaborated with back in August, there's this impulse, particularly if you start to understand Bitcoin. Maybe some people have transacted Bitcoin with you. You begin to understand it. It scratches that itch. And you think, okay, cool, how do I actually store it securely and safely? From a small, medium enterprise, from a business perspective, GuardBlock is a really effective solution in terms of being able to hold your Bitcoin in a secure manner without having to dive super deep down the rabbit hole and do multi-sig this and collaborative custody that and all the rest of it. You can basically just go, cool, I can sweep a certain portion of my funds over to that vault that you'll create with the GuardBlock protocol. And therefore you can actually begin stowing away, or saving rather, some of that Bitcoin that you're being sent or receiving because you started to accept Bitcoin in your business. Obviously not in Australia yet, but GuardBlock will be a global product at some point, and we're going to focus on the Australian market first and do all the testing and scaling globally later on. But this is a solution that's kind of ripe for those use cases.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Great.
Very good.
We'll just end the pod there then. So we've got the GuardBlock. We've covered that. I just wanted to touch briefly on the Bitcoin Cricket Club. We've got some boys, Stan, over there in Perth in the Swan Valley. There's an actual dedicated cricket team called the Bitcoin Cricket Team. And we've onboarded with these guys to sponsor their play of the match. So if you go follow them on Twitter, or if you follow our Twitter account, you'll start seeing that there'll be little announcements for player of the match, the GuardBlock player of the match. And we're going to be giving, or awarding rather, the GuardBlock player of the match for the Bitcoin Cricket Club, $100 worth of Bitcoin for the remainder of the season. So the Ashes begin tomorrow, so an even greater incentive to start, putting on the sports ball for the summer.
Nice one. It's awesome to support little sort of manifestations of Bitcoin stuff like sports teams and everything. So yeah, it's cool to see that we're supporting them, and look forward to seeing kids get their hands on some Bitcoin for their efforts.
Well, these are actually grown adults, thankfully.
Oh,
these are like semi-pros. They're pretty good, and it's part of the strategy of supporting grassroots elements of the community. So obviously we did the Rise Mofo stuff back in August, and we obviously connected quite deeply with the Bitcoin Alive back in March, and there's a view to support those guys as well. But one of the things that we want to do more as a company is to support local communities, meetups, all of that stuff with our Easy Bitcoin books, our hard card player of the matches, and things like this. So this is just a nice way to make sure that we're sort of out there putting our name on things that we think matter. And whether or not you're a cricket fan or not, it's kind of beside the point. It's cool to support small clubs, local businesses, these sorts of things, to get them to actually stack real, actual sovereign hard money, so that they can continue doing what it is that they love to do.
Yeah,
nice one.
I think a lot of this is your initiative, DJ, and I think it's about, there's a lot of people, Bitcoiners around Australia, and they're trying to, they're part of the community, part of different communities, and they're trying to orange pill people. And I guess it's kind of about collaborating with these kind of Bitcoiners and helping them orange pill their communities.
Absolutely.
Now, Alex, you had some news with respect to some Bitcoiners in Sydney doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, this is exciting news, I think. So we've just locked in the lease for the new Sydney Bitcoin Hub. So this is going to be the first, I believe it's the first, I can't think of any others, physical Bitcoin space in Australia. So we're looking to sort of like replicate the models of some of the cool spaces around the world. Like you have your Bitcoin parks and your Bitcoin commons in the US are particularly prominent, and then there's others. There's one in what's the one in Thailand called, Dan? Do you remember the one in Chiang Mai? It's just Bitcoin Chiang Mai. I can't remember, but yeah, there's a bunch of them around the world. They're really cool. Obviously, Sydney's real estate is it's supremely expensive, which has been a prohibiting factor until now, but we're giving it a go. So the plan is we're going to have a co-working space in Sydney. It's pretty cool, actually. It's across 3 levels, which is really sick. And yeah, co-working space, and then it's be big enough we'll be able to host the bit devs and maybe occasionally some of the smaller meetups. So yeah, if anyone's interested in that, hit me up. Hopefully we'll have some kind of opening early next year. And so if you're in the city region, or if you want to come down, come along. Maybe around Bitcoin Alive, we'll open it up as well, and we'll get some events going. So pretty excited about that.
Nice one.
Sweet.
It's cool to see an instantiation of like a Bitcoin park or something like that, because I get a lot of FOMO. That's one of the things I do get a lot of FOMO with. A lot of the news, a lot of the announcements, a lot of the things that are happening tend to be sort of elsewhere, particularly in the US, and you think, oh man, it would be so cool if we just had something like that that we could get to, that we could connect at. Yeah, it's an awesome step in the right direction, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's going to be really exciting. I think it's just a base to build momentum from, right? Like getting people that are working on Bitcoin, thinking about Bitcoin all day in the same space. Like all sorts of things can come from that. It's a space that we can start hosting more like community events. We can bring outside groups in. We can start doing outreach to unis, doing like internships and getting people moving towards the sort of sponsorships and grants that are available in the world for Bitcoin development and Bitcoin projects. I think there's a lot of big ideas that could come out of this. I'm very excited about it.
Speaking of big ideas, so 100th episode, Daniel, why did you start the Australian Bitcoin podcast, and did you ever think we'd get to episode 100?
Yeah, well, I don't know what's more exciting, like getting to 100 episodes of a podcast, or when Bitcoin hit $100,000. It's a tie, isn't it? Or maybe Bitcoin hitting $100,000. Well,
That's right. You'll get that one again.
Yeah, I'm like, we can relive a Bitcoin podcast once, but the 100K we get to relive multiple times. So that's another benefit of the price going down. We get to see it go above 100,000. If you missed the $100,000 party, you can have another chance. But well, to be fair, like I didn't start it by myself. I mean, it was our team, and early on, like Justin and Jeremy, but especially Justin was involved in it and doing the episodes, and he done a really good job. And he was, a lot of the stuff he done was very focused on privacy and teaching people about privacy tools, which he has like a big knowledge on. And if people kind of misses Justin, you can find him. He's active in the Adelaide Bitcoin Telegram group. So you can find that, and he's active there. But I think the reason we started it was because there's a lot of Bitcoin podcasts, but there's no kind of Australian Bitcoin podcast focused on Australia. Everybody wants to get a global audience and focus on like a global audience, which makes sense. But like there was nothing like tailored for Australians about like the Australian community here, and so we started one. Yeah. And we were trying to really are involved in the community. Like obviously we go to the bush bashes, we go to events, we're involved with part of the community, and so I think it's good.
Well, it's pretty damn successful. And I mean, one of the things I personally like about it is when we have guests on that are Australian and lend an Australian point of view to the conversation. I mean, obviously, we're significantly underrepresented for whatever reason. I mean, I can think of countless, really. But the notion is that there are Australians out there that are curious about this Bitcoin thing. A lot of the content that gets generated is from a US focus, particularly from a news style perspective, and it's completely underserved. And so Australian Bitcoin podcast definitely fills that gap. And even more so when we have guests on like Pete Dunworth or Daz or Dale, who can talk about their experience with Bitcoin from their particular perspective and comment particularly on some of the news that goes on. And so awesome. Hats off.
Yeah, well, and thank you guys, DJ and Mike, now for kind of continuing and running it. And I think the audience probably agrees that you guys are doing a good job.
Well, we should shout out the audience, to be honest, because the only reason that it exists, I mean, you could do it and you could talk into the void, but we see the numbers and they're pretty handsome. Like there's a nice trend upwards. And I mean, honestly, as long as we're providing the value to the listeners, that's kind of the only reason that we'd keep doing it, rather than just doing it to try and lightly shill GuardBlock. That's not the point here. The point is to, as you said, Daniel, represent Australia in the Bitcoin space. And when Mike and I jump on once a fortnight, it's always it's just a nice thing to do, actually.
Absolutely.
It's gone cold.
It was always a good, like, I always found it a good, like, I don't do the episodes but much anymore, you guys, but it was always a good, you just talk about Bitcoin news and just have like a chat. So it's, it wasn't the hardest job. It was kind of, you just talk about Bitcoins and like, it was fun, like, obviously there's a little behind the scenes. Like
It's the editing and the uploading afterwards.
Yeah. But you just like talking about Bitcoin. I kind of enjoyed that.
I'm looking forward to doing a to a live rip in the Sydney Bitcoin Hub.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll have a podcasting room, so get ready. Yeah,
Nice.
That could be fun.
Sounds good.
Well, do you think we might wrap this up? It seems like a natural way to wrap it up. We've covered quite a lot of ground in this episode, and I'm just curious to know. So obviously we've got the Bush Bash next week. It would be really nice if we could just sort of be above 100K while we're out at parks. It would certainly incentivize me to want to spend my Bitcoin a little bit more so that I don't lose as many sats. But I mean, hey, spend and replace, generate them. Assuming, of course, I even have Bitcoin in the first place. But anyway, boys, do you think we'll be back over 100K by the time we rip episode 101?
I've got a pretty tepid take. I think that, while I hope to be pleasantly surprised with some kind of God candle or something that brings us back, I gotta do it. I'll do it, and then hopefully Alex or Daniel can salvage it. I think that there's still probably just a bit of pain to come while people work out what's happening in just like global markets, geopolitics, this AI bubble, potential real estate bubble in Australia. It's all up in the air. There is talk that that gold bugs might start reallocating from gold into Bitcoin, and we might see some returns there. But I think right now the best hat to have on is that very long-term perspective. I think it's going to be my pessimistic take is
I'm just going to say it. 200K by Christmas Day is still in play. Okay?
Nice. That is optimistic. Yeah.
He's back in. He's back in.
Well, I think, my view is just they're going to have to start cutting rates very soon. So I'm starting to look pretty doubtful that's happening in December, but I think January, February, somewhere around then, we'll be pumping again.
Well, I'm not sure. I can't make that prediction, but if you want a prediction, I'll make another prediction. By episode 500, we'll be above 1 million. Okay, so that's my prediction.
All right.
500.
What date would that be? Should we work it out? Very good. I like that prediction. I like it.
You're muted, TJ.
Damn. Gentlemen, thank you so much. I think we might bring this into land. This is episode 100. We're joined by former hosts and co-hosts and all of the hosts with the most on this pod, the GuardBlock team, effectively, minus Nick, of course, our dev. But gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Episode 100, we covered a lot of ground. Don't forget, the Bush Bash is on next week. We'll all be there, I'm pretty certain. We'll have a little bit of collateral, some easy Bitcoin books, we've
T-shirts,
got some stickers, T-shirts. We don't want to we don't want to overtake the merch stand too much, but we might load it up a little bit so you guys can. Anyone that's coming along that wants stickers, T-shirts, GuardBlock, easy Bitcoin books, all of that sort of stuff, come and find us. And obviously, bend our ear about GuardBlock. And in the meantime, jump on to guardblock.com and join the wait list so that you can find out more information about how we can make collaborative custody that much easier for you. Anyway, enough of the light shills. Thank you, boys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Bye.